Hey there, Cheese Meisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff. So, uh, shaved is the expression? And joining me on the other end of the internet, my host.
I'm Leslie, and at least I know what third base feels like.
There's no way to choose a line from this movie that isn't 100% about sex.
Yeah, there's no way.
Every single thing in this movie. This week, Cheese Meisters, we are talking about American Pie, the 1999 teenage sex comedy masterpiece starring literally every hot 20-something woman who was alive in 1999, a bunch of dudes, and Eugene Levy. So pretty much got it?
Yeah.
We are doing this in conjunction with Season 2, Episode 21, Everybody's Talking About It. This movie is about teaching some kids to swim. Like, Donna Martin would be all for what's going on in this movie, even though she's not having the sex. She wants everyone to know how to have the sex. So it's possible that that book that's hidden in the library is like the instruction manual Donna Martin wanted everyone to have.
Oh, yeah.
That
book is great.
Right. Yeah, good job on that book.
We'll come back to that because that ties into some strong beliefs. They're not strong beliefs, just like insights I had while watching this movie.
Awesome. I was really hoping that this, like, you watched this movie and you went, and now I am Buddhist. Like, you took like some real deep, like, strong beliefs from this movie. I think that would be great.
No, yeah, I don't want to give anything away yet.
All right. Our spelling connection is Molly Cheek, Jim's mom. She was in an episode of TJ Hooker, which is funny that that's our spelling connection to me, because up until I learned that her primary sole function in this movie was that first scene. She's just there to catch him. But she's there to catch him and also to be our spelling connection. So good on you, Molly Cheek.
Yeah.
All right. So it's really easy to explain what happens in this movie. There's some high school boys who decide that they need to have some sex before they go away to college. And for some reason, they decide that the period between prom and leaving in August doesn't count. Like, they shorten their runway. Like, this is self-harm on their part. Like, they played themselves by trying to force this to happen by prom night. They give themselves 3 weeks when they could give themselves 3 months. Now, maybe they needed the pressure.
This is that moment. This is when they're practicing for the Doolittle raid in Pearl Harbor, and they have to learn how to take off from a shortened runway.
Yes. We got to get there in 3 weeks. Usually this would take us 3.5 months. Got to do it in 3 weeks.
Because for some reason, summer break is not interesting to Hollywood, even though, like, is that not the thing? Like, it's July when we're recording this. Like, and I don't know about you, but I'm experiencing some deep summer nostalgia.
You know, I just like to stay inside. I just don't want to sunburn. That's mostly what I feel. I don't want to sunburn.
I like
That's the way I approach it.
It doesn't like me, unfortunately. It's like my body starts withering away in the heat, but I'm like, no, I love getting to be outside, not needing protection from the elements. It's a freedom I can't get anywhere else.
Oh, I need the protection from the elements. I need the SPF 90,000.
I need the SPF, but I mean, like, I can be outside with my arms exposed, my legs exposed.
Like nipple shirt from Euphoria.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. I know the feeling of wanting to,
okay, just to touch on that real quick. Like, I was thinking about it last week because we were out and about on a very hot day. And I noticed a lot of people, either a lot of dudes shirtless, a lot of women in, like, the croppiest of tops and everything, or like...
Were they wearing a bra that thing that looks like a bra but isn't a bra but is a bra?
Hell yeah, they were. And And it's one of those things where I thought about the free the nipple movement
Hmm.
because I'm pretty sure even if one I wanted that smoke, which I don't,
Right.
um, I don't think it would make me feel much better. It's kind
No,
of like, yeah, I don't know if it would make me feel like at some point with humidity, you're just gonna feel stick either way.
that's true.
So like it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. You meant it wouldn't make you feel physically better, like more comfortable if you could walk around
No, it wouldn't
topless.
it wouldn't make me feel more physically comfortable from the elements. Like maybe in a
Yeah.
dry heat it would be nice, but like we were standing outside for an hour waiting for Manhattan Henge last night, and I mean just
Yeah.
layer upon layer
Yeah.
of
You're still
humidity.
going to end up with under boob sweat in that circumstance, topless or no.
That's true. You know,
That's
that was a level unlocked for me. I was like, there's enough there to sweat.
congratulations.
Shout out
When
to
I
all
was,
my other small ladies.
I was like, have you done enough chest exercises to hold a pencil when you do this? Like
Uh,
that's
that was the
the teenage guy equivalent of that. Yeah. Can you hold a
nice.
pencil? Yeah. And for some guys, that's just not the way that their chest is built. So like they would get bigger, but like they would get bigger sort of out and not together. So it
Interesting.
didn't work quite as well for them. You watch enough wrestling, you see a whole lot of different pec shapes.
I mean,
You know,
you watch enough other stuff too. You get a lot of different.
I do not know what you were talking about. Speaking of not knowing what you're talking about, there is nothing more relatable to me than the beginning of this movie, not the sock part or the parent part, but the trying to discramble what's going on your television screen, just looking for something, could not be more relatable.
So delightfully dated.
Yeah,
Like
can't do that anymore.
it still cracks me up on the rare rewatch of Friends when I come across episodes that are like they're buying porn or the guys
Huh?
get free porn and
Yeah,
Walter over my shoulder is like, "Oh, that's all porn now."
right. Yeah. But like the very specific thing of because now if you don't get a channel, you just get a blue screen. Before, when you didn't get a channel on TV or cable or satellite, it would come in all wavy, all wiggly like that. And it would move around and it would do this. And trust me when I tell you that it is a universal experience of that era to be like, I'm pretty sure that was a boob. Like it's it's just that's what it was. Um, so the movie starting with that is hilarious to me.
Hmm.
And I guess I want to start with that for you because I want to know if when you saw this I'm sure you did not see it in 1999 when it came out as a 10-year-old.
No.
That feels improbable. Um, so, but when you first saw this, was it funny? And is it funny today?
I think the
Oh,
ex
which is sorry, by the way, this week is the 25th anniversary of this movie coming out
I know. Talk about
as
kismet.
we record this. So, how did this work for you in its in original incarnation versus now?
So of course I have a long explanation for this.
Sure.
Uh, my mom and I have a history of watching odd movies together.
Okay.
And if she ever hears this, she's gonna be like, "Don't! Why would you tell people that?" I'll be like, "Mom, no one in Croatia will be bothered. This will be normal to people in other countries." But anyway, so my mom, because she was a teacher, wanted to make sure her kids weren't, I guess, growing up too square. And yet at
Mm,
the same time, you know, I think it's that balance a lot of parents have to deal with of like what is appropriate for me to show my kid and what is
mhm.
not like, but also I don't want them to get bullied for not being aware of things.
Yeah.
So, I know Ashley probably saw it closer to when it came out, but again, it was rented. Like I don't think we would have been allowed to go see this in theaters.
Mm,
Me definitely not. And my mom found the DVD and bought it so that we could watch it. I think this was around I'm going to say 2005, 2006 when I was in high school.
Okay.
And she didn't read on the DVD cover that it said unrated. And I went, Mom, do you know what that means? And she went,
It means,
I was like, there's going to be more penis.
in more words, it means warning, more pie fucking.
So, so we're watching it. And I completely forgot we watched this together. So,
Awesome.
so we watched this together. I'm pretty sure we laughed together. We have watched other weirder shit since that I have found funnier. Shout out to 50 Shades of Grey, comedy of the year.
Sure.
But we were watching this, and my dad's in the other room, and so we were both acting like kids watching it, because whenever we heard him move, we would be like, "Oh, pause it!" So I don't remember how funny I found it, other than like, this is funny as shit to be watching it with my mom.
Right.
I'm sure other people would be like, this is super embarrassing. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sure there was that too, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We're weird. Like,
I made the decision not to share this with the 13-year-old this week. But if he was 16, we would have watched it.
Sure.
Maybe even 15. But 13 just doesn't, it feels a little too little.
Yeah.
So, but he's watching all the rest of them with me now. So we got to watch Raising
Cool.
Yeah, I'm making him. Because it's that, or he's going to watch just hours of streaming YouTube clips of people just saying nonsense for no reason and like playing video games while other people watch. A lot of stuff like that.
I mean, I feel like if anything, it would just be uncomfortable for him.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So we'll come back to this one later. But
sure.
So watching it now, is this funny to you?
It's got some. I should have written down the few moments that made me chuckle, but because I don't think it's really that funny. There are comedic moments. I would have loved if Natasha Lyonne could have strutted her comedic chops more, because she's hilarious. And Allison Hannigan,
she's funny when she's on there. I mean, it's a whole
funny
thing.
when she's on there. I mean, obviously that character's supposed to be annoying, but it's also like kind of endearing. Yeah, I can't think of like, oh, I know what was funny. Eugene Levy.
Yes, 100%.
He's the funniest. His scenes, I mean, I heard this phrase earlier and I love it, but he makes a meal out of that with Jason Biggs when he's showing him like, well, and if you look at her face,
the description of the different types of porn magazines is so funny. I
would love it if they had just let him go.
I'm sure that they did. That's not that to me, and I don't know this, but that to me felt like the stage direction, the direction in the script was Jim's dad explains porn magazines to Jim, and that's it. And then Eugene just goes.
And it's great. I love his dance at the end, and the fact that you see kind of like, oh, that's where he gets it. And then he's like, honey, like that's his personal foreplays. I get to dancing and
That's right. Yeah, I do. Yeah, seeing that this is why the pie fucker is like this is perfect. Eugene Levy is quite funny in this. Otherwise, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I realized too, I think the adults are the funniest people in it, and unfortunately, we see the least of them, because Jennifer Coolidge, I mean, granted, this doesn't really show off her comedic chops.
Right.
And because not that I forgot she was in this, but I've seen present Jennifer Coolidge more than I've seen past Jennifer Coolidge.
Agreed.
So it's wild and it's fun to get to see her.
Right.
And she is she's great. The adults in this movie are the best part.
Yeah, I agree. It's um so when I saw this, I don't know that I saw it in theaters. Um I don't remember when I first saw this. But I would have been 23 when this came out, like just out of college. Um and I thought it was okay. But in my head, as we like got to watch it this week, I'm like, this movie is gonna be like real stupid. It's gonna be real sexist because it's 25 years old, and it's gonna be real broy. And like, I get it. Like, I get it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like, I don't want to go into a movie harumph,
Yeah.
like that's not fun. It's not fun for me, and it's not fun to like talk about or listen to someone who's like harumph about this movie. But so like that opening scene I thought was funny
Yeah.
because it's ridiculous. Like it's so over the top. Like can't turn but it's like everybody's fear, like that you're just going to get caught and not be able to avoid it. But can't turn the thing off. They lift a pillow off your lap for some reason. They won't leave the room like at all. And then they lift the pillow off again. Like it just keeps like, mom's here and now dad's here. And it's like, come on. But it's like that. It's the playing into the embarrassment of it that is funny.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, because I know I've mentioned before that I don't like a lot of physical comedy, but in this movie, I feel like it kind of worked because they were really playing into. I mean, it seemed relevant to being a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
They're gangly. They've shot up in height or just in various other departments, and so like their bodies are not. They're not centered yet. They're not balanced.
Yeah, they're not completely in control of their extremities.
Yeah, and the physical comedy it went just far enough. I mean, yeah, it went just far enough. Like it didn't go into, I would say, slapstick territory. Thankfully.
No. And yeah, no, that wouldn't have been right for this. This was just lewd jokes.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of not even jokes. It was more like, we're just going to say these words out loud. And let that take us where it takes us, because this is not the way. Like no one talks like this in movies, like this with these terms. Like no teenage sex comedy has been this blunt.
Yeah.
So you don't like, if you're the first to do any kind of thing, you don't also have to make it funny necessarily. Just being the first to do it makes it uncomfortable and laughy and funny on its own. Like that, I can't believe they said that.
Yeah.
It's very South Park and Eminem of the time. Just and Eminem, like literally yesterday, I think, released the Death of Slim Shady album, which is I found pretty interesting because it's him wanting to kill off the part of him, that this character part of him that was so over the top, that would just say things for a reaction. And the character arguing back, I'm not a character, I'm you. Quit trying to pretend that you're not me. We're together. Like this is us. And there's even like, there's one song where he's like, what if Cartman said this? And like in the song. And I'm like, no, it's the same time period. It's that 97 to 2000 where like there was such an opening up of the language that could be used to directly express a thing.
Yeah.
In media, in cartoon TV, in music, in movies, that just saying it is enough for it to be like, whoa. Now it helps that South Park is fucking hilarious and really smart, but those early episodes are a lot of Cartman just said God damn it. Like he just got an anal probe. Like that's hilarious, right? Like it doesn't even matter if it's funny on its face, it's just shocking. And I feel like that's kind of what this movie is, except for Eugene Levy. It's just, they said all of that out loud.
Yeah. I agree. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because I didn't go into it as harumph as you, and I was a little worried for you. But
No, I managed not to, but I was harumph adjacent.
sure. And like any, I don't want to say, actually, no, I will say it. Like any male dominated film, like any male ensemble film, I have to go into it with like a glass wall up of like, okay, they're
Yeah.
going to say some things.
Mhm.
But I'm going to make a bold statement, and I hope it doesn't, but everyone hear me out. This movie was oddly more pro-woman than I remembered or anticipated, and I have great examples. For one thing, granted, they make jokes after each of these things because levity. Like,
Right.
we're gonna touch on these things that are important to touch on, pun intended.
Okay, hold on. I have to stop you, and I apologize.
That's fine.
Because you did this,
Oh my god!
and then you said you have to touch on these. And we're talking about this
Matt.
silly, and we're talking about this
That
silly
is-
ass movie.
That's perfect.
Anyway, you have to touch on these.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Maybe not like that, but
Directly like that.
figure out what they like. I'll leave it at that.
Right. But also, how can you not talk about this without being silly stupid about it?
No,
You know?
for sure. Anyway, so in the pact, stop it! I know Laura's giving you looks too.
She did come out and do a thing.
Nice. The pact mentions that it has to be consensual,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there's again quickly followed up by like, you can't pay anyone for it. And it's like,
Right.
okay, but can we talk about consent? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all don't really understand what that is.
Sure.
You think you do on an obvious level, but you don't. Anyway,
Right.
pushing that soapbox aside, I love just to one. Just one. I'm going to be so self-conscious the rest of the show.
No, lean into this shit. It's silly.
Okay. I love that the guy with the boyfriend, I would say the one stereotypically attractive teenage male.
Oz?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I don't care.
Yeah, Chris Klein as Oz, I think. The one with the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets access to the book
Uh-huh.
because he expresses that he just wants to make her feel good.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
yes!
Mhm.
Amazing. What else? I'm sure I'll think of other things, but those are the main things.
So there's a few other things I thought of that I thought were pretty pro a woman's point of view in this.
Yes.
But the thing you just said about how he got access to the book, that's interesting to me because I think that's kind of thematically the movie. I know you're watching my hands now to see what it says.
Still thinking about the fact that I did my hand thing.
I get it. I talk with my hands, but I don't tend to do this with them while I talk. Like that would
Don't either, but boobs out of my brain.
While I do, here's what I'm thinking about this. Like it's not the way that I normally move my hands when I talk. So that joyous. But it's gonna be so hard to get back on track.
I know. We're acting like we're 15 now.
But that's kind of what watching this movie does to you in a little bit of a way. But what I was going to say is the theme of the movie isn't that having sex makes you a man. It's that in order to get to have sex, you have to kind of become one.
Mm.
Like you have to make these these changes before you're ready, even when you're like ready, ready to anything. That none of them were emotionally or mentally able to actually do this
Yeah.
until they went on a bit of an arc, right? So the pie fucker has to he has to like get over this idea of like the super hot woman and like the foreign exchange student fantasy thing and all of this garbage, and have a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Like, learn to talk to a girl. And the band camp thing is annoying, right? But and it's endearing, but it's also important. Not just because it leads to the best joke of the movie, the most shocking thing in the movie, and one of the other things that you were just saying, like the pro-woman thing, which is, of course I know how to make myself feel good.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a very pro-woman position in this movie, which is great.
And she sought him out. She was like, are we going to do this? Like, you're
right.
Of course I said yes to you. You're a sure thing.
Yeah. But the reason that all of the Bandcamp stuff is important is because it gets her to the point of saying, I have lots of stories. Why don't you have any stories?
Yeah.
And that is his moment of growth, where he then he's like, oh, I got a story. Have you ever heard of cum beer or whatever the fuck? Like that whole nasty ass scene at the beginning of the movie. But I guess there's a reason for it because it gives him the story to tell. Right?
I mean, I feel like he had others, but yeah.
He did, but he went with that one. This is the top of mind. And also no one in this movie talks about anything except sex ever, which is ridiculous, but that's how this movie is built. But he learns how to have this conversation. And like, now that you can talk to a girl and not just be like, look at them boobies, you're ready for him.
Yeah. The choir guy even acknowledges it in that he realizes, oh, you need to like, or he learns it from the girl in the car when the one he tries to pick up being like Casanova and all that.
Yes.
But like she says, we just want to be listened to.
Yeah.
And so he tries to tell the other guys this too. And granted, he kind of goes on the journey of like, that many of them do. I'm going to become this way so that I can score. But he learns a lot about himself in the process, becomes a more sensitive person, thankfully.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's Oz, by the way. I got them confused. Oz is the one who goes into the choir and dates Mina Savari. Mm-hmm. The other one is what's his ass? Sean William Scott Stifler. No, not even in the contest. It's the other kid. It's the Kevin.
He looks like he looks like another version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, and here's the problem for me. If you're looking at the IMDb thumbnails of all these people, he is the one who looks the least like his character in the movie now.
Oh,
like wow. Whenever this picture was taken, like he has long hair and like facial hair and stuff, and he just looks like a much different dude. So anyway, I kind of forgot he existed. But yeah, he has to figure out if he's in love, at least a little bit. But more, it's about figuring out how to center her in this process.
Yeah.
And not just himself. And until he gets that, he's not ready.
Yeah.
And until Oz gets to the point where he realizes that he's not just this lacrosse dude, that he also is really passionate about this thing, and that being around this girl is not just because she's like a cheerleader, because she's not. She's in the band or the choir or whatever. She's a different sect of the school that he never would have looked at, even though she's Mina Savari and she's like objectively gorgeous.
Stunning.
But it's until he gets to the point where they have a relationship that's based on not just being horny that he's ready. And it's the process of this, and even the guy who is pretending to be an adult with this,
Finch,
with all of his fancy coffee drinks and his brown liquor, aged 18 years, just the way he likes it, and her. Um,
Yeah, shout out to that line. Again, kind of this movie had odd moments of self-awareness with like aged 18, just the way I like it. Like
well, and
message
also,
to 18.
well, there's that. But it's very self-aware in another way, which is it's aware of its place in the canon of teenage sex comedies.
Yeah.
Like there's references to The Graduate at the end, like very direct references. There's a Graduate reference when she does the shaved line. Like the shot is of Biggs through her legs, just like Mrs. Robinson. Different
right.
leg positioning, but it's the same shot.
Yeah.
And then they played "Don't You Forget About Me" at the dance. Like,
love that.
Like this movie knows what it is. It's a teenage coming of age movie in a long line of teenage coming of age movies. So I think it's better because I feel like my initial reaction with this movie is it's probably going to be very cringy. Yeah. Because it'll be of its time, and of its time is not of our time, and that always looks weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and we've seen that a lot in these different coming of age things that 90210 is a hilarious example of but we just talked about it with Deanie and Bud, or whatever her first name was.
Deanie.
Yeah. And we've talked about The Graduate occasionally, but we haven't watched it yet. But
no.
But then the same way we talked about Boys in the Hood and Rebel Without a Cause, how like thematically these things are kind of all connected.
Yeah.
And interesting to look at in relation to each other.
Yeah.
I would say that's more interesting than looking at them in relation to now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I think the now is kind of baked into what we're doing anyway. Like we have to, because we're here. This is where we are.
I'm sorry, I keep messing with my headphones too. My right ear is being crushed. It's fine. I think the kind of conversations we're willing to have about it being related to now are going to be less tired than the ones that we hear projected on the internet all the time. Because, like, of course, everything that was made ever is going to be offensive to someone, or is not going to age well. Not everything can be cheese and wine.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so let's have conversations about it then. Like, don't just say, oh, it's so cringy, or, oh, that didn't age well. Like, I can't watch it now. Like, why? Tell me why. Tell me why.
That also doesn't age well. Actually, it kind of does. Those things are fucking bops, but I hated them.
I love them. But, it's like part of the problem anymore is that we don't know how to have these conversations. People just want to say the most inflammatory shit and not dig deeper,
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's true. But I think it's also like it's a little easy to go, well, that's not okay now. You could never get that movie made today, which is bullshit. Like that's always, whenever somebody says that, it's always wrong.
Yeah.
Like the big one is like, you could never make Blazing Saddles today. Sure you could. Of course you can.
What was Tropic Thunder?
Yeah, well, but that was 20 years ago. You can never make Tropic Thunder now. Like, of course you can. You can make these movies. You can tell stories with these kind of jokes in them, or you could change the joke a little bit. Like, and the point of Blazing Saddles is like that whole scene where the sheriff comes to town and the train whistle blows to prevent them from completing the N-word. Like the point of that joke is that the people who use that word are awful. Like they're the butt of the joke.
Yeah. That's why I was a little perplexed when you mentioned that, because I'm like, isn't the point of that movie to show how racist white people are?
Yes. But people are like, Yeah, you can't do Mel Brooks type humor. You totally can. You can do all of it today.
You can.
Just the same way but it's just different. Like, I don't, if you made American Pie today, it would be different because it's not 1999. But like, you can still make coming of age sex comedies. Totally can.
They still
Now,
do.
yes. They may not pay for them and put them on the big screen because, things aren't blowing up and shit, and you can't make
Booksmart
$1 million.
is like
Booksmart is a
definitely
phenomenal movie.
Yeah, and there's like sexcapades in that,
Uh-huh.
But we finally get like
Funny.
it's so funny, it's delightful.
Mhm.
Yeah, Beanie Feldstein's whole monologue about like just them up. What if it's yourself?
I've only seen that movie once, so I'm not conversant in it, but I really loved it. Like, it charmed the shit out of me, and it was
loved
fun.
it too.
Yeah. So you can still now you can't, and I would say it's inadvisable to do them in your era, do them the way they did them in a previous era. Like, I think that, like, if you tried to remake Porky's today and do it exactly this, like, maybe you shouldn't touch Porky's. That's kind of ugh. But doing a 1980s sex comedy in 2024 is weird and out of touch, and unless that's the layer you're going for, like, but there's even a way to do that,
It's kind of how I feel about a lot of what we would call maybe the golden age of Broadway, like, the Rodgers and Hammerstein era. Like, all of those shows have problems.
Mhm.
Some of them can be fixed. Some of them, I love saying, you know what we can do with this? Concert version.
Sure.
Because, I mean, and there are still lyrics that are going to be a problem, and, we can change them, or we can put a censor beforehand and say, hey, there are some things expressed in this that are of that time, and hopefully you don't believe in this anymore, or you shouldn't. Like,
right.
So yeah, let's not do them the way that they would have been done then. Let's either adjust them or, hey, write a new story.
Yeah. But looking at American Pie in this continuum of teenage sex comedies, one, how highly does it rate for you as just a good movie? And the other thing I'm wondering about is how it rates on, like, the inappropriateness meter.
Super high.
I would think so, yeah. But, like, so as a movie, when you look at this in comparison to, and I'm going to say movies that I'm assuming that you've either seen or know enough about to get the gist.
Okay.
The Graduate.
Yes.
Porky's, Revenge of the Nerds, 16 Candles, Fast Times, Weird Science, Risky Business. But you know what these movies are.
I do.
No? Okay. Dazed and Confused. Really? There's a lot of these you haven't seen. That's interesting.
Here's the secret, Jeff.
Yeah.
Male leads.
Yeah. I mean, welcome to all of moviedom.
No, and that's not to say that. That's not to say that
you didn't see them at that because you weren't interested. I get it.
Hey, if you have a Disney princess in it for a long time or a female lead, I just wasn't interested until Newsies came along, and I went, "Oh, okay, boys can be interesting because they're singing and dancing."
Yeah. So you've seen The Graduate?
I have seen The Graduate.
Okay, and you've seen 16 Candles?
I have.
Okay. I'm going to try to contain it to things that you've seen. Have you seen Dazed and Confused?
No, but it is on my list.
Okay. And you've seen American Pie. Have you seen Superbad? Really, Superbad's pretty funny. Have you seen Booksmart?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, of the ones you've seen then, The Graduate, 16 Candles, this, Booksmart, quality-wise, how good is this movie in comparison to those?
Oh, it's on the low end. I think
so too,
all of,
but it's
like,
not terrible.
No, it's not terrible. Like I would say, and I'm not going to rank them, but I'm going to try to give some context.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's around the same. I hate to put a John Hughes movie on the lower end, but just because again, if we're looking at how we see it now, unfortunately there's and well, I
Well,
have no idea.
let's save that part. Let's save the
Okay.
inappropriateness part for the second.
I love 16 Candles. I know it's got problems, but I love it. I love Booksmart. Um I like The Graduate. It's one of those that is you watch it and you know it's good, but it's
Uh,
also very strange and it's
yeah,
clearly a very specific experience.
sure.
Like it's so interesting how it's labeled as a comedy, but like it's got some dark shit in there.
Oh, of course it does. Yeah, but it has a lot of great jokes in it too. But
Oh, for sure.
it's a heavy movie. Yeah, and I mean, like the fact that anyone's like, you know what, this comedy needs Simon and Garfunkel. That'll make it funnier. Like that's not the instinct there.
An unfinished Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
No lyrics, just the verse.
What
Or the
for?
chorus. The chorus.
Oh no, the whole movie is soundtracked by Simon.
That's true.
Every song is a Simon and Garfunkel song, which is not what you do if you want to lean into the ha-has of it. So the fact that that movie is funny in spite of the, you know, heaviness kind of what it's saying, and the generation gap stuff it's exploring, um, to me, like that's the best of these movies. Like they've never gotten as good as The Graduate. Um, Dazed and Confused, I think, is great. Like great, I love it, and it's a whole interest. It's a different kind of deal, but uh, I think Booksmart is better than this as a movie.
Absolutely.
I think 16 Candles is a better movie because it's about more than just sex.
Yeah.
You know, like this movie is only about that, and that is limiting for it, I think. Because to me, this is a 90-minute movie that felt 130 minutes. I was like, this is still going, like a lot with this thing. So like as a movie, I think it's okay, but it's at the lower end of these kind of movies. I think it's a better movie than Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds. Like those are dreck.
And I doubt I will ever watch those.
I don't recommend. Revenge of the Nerds, I recommend more because there's more jokes about how the nerds are gonna, like the nerds get over on the jocks, you know.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing can be kind of funny, but it's also there's just a lot of like we just want some boobies. In those movies. Yeah, I think it's fine-ish, this movie. But on the inappropriateness scale, you've got 22-year-old sleeps with his family, his mom's friend, and his mom's friend's daughter. Like that's pretty oogie, you know. I think that was oogie in the moment. Yeah, wait. Elaine and her mom and Mrs. Robinson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I thought you were. No, it does. I was thinking from American Pie, but yeah, no, that's definitely.
Oh yeah.
Weird. Yeah.
So that's the ooginess of The Graduate. The ooginess of 16 Candles is everything involving the donger, who I love.
Yeah.
But all of the long duck dong stuff is so racist and awful. The date rapiness.
The date rapey.
Like the fact that Jake is going after a younger girl, even though he knows she's too young to party serious. Like, there's a lot. I love 16 Candles.
Me too.
You almost can't watch it. It's just, it's like every part of it has something glaringly gross about it. And
I mean, Molly Ringwald giving up her underwear, or giving her underwear to Farmer Ted. Farmer Ted having, I'm going to say, non-consensual sex with the popular girl. Like,
I don't think either of them consented to that. I think I don't blame either one of them in that circumstance. They were both
calling it,
yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm just giving it the gentle
But even
term
that,
instead of the harsh. Yeah.
Yeah, but even that is
Yeah.
Yeah, his character arc is gets drunk and sleeps with someone he doesn't necessarily remember sleeping with. Like,
Yeah.
Booksmart, again, I've only seen it once, but I feel like it's a really good movie that
it is really good.
Not super problematic.
I would
doesn't
say
have as much ooginess in it.
The one oogie thing is you get a teacher flirting with a student, but I feel like they were trying to call that trope or put that trope on its head. I don't know it, but it's gross. I'm gonna leave it at that. I would say that's the one gross thing for me. That and anytime there's like vomit during an intimate moment, I'm just like, oh.
That's gross on its face, yeah, or whatever part of the body it lands on.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I think. I think American Pie is not that objectionable.
No.
Like when you compare them with those things, and feel free to remind me of things that I'm missing. But it's blunt, and the blunt language is very much of the time, and very much teenaged. So it's dated, but it and sometimes you go, oh, you wouldn't say that today. But like generally speaking, the themes are the things we discussed, and like that, like they're not just chasing down the cheerleaders. Like they're realizing that there are more types of attractive human beings that you should talk to in the world than this like narrow band you've created, and that it should be enjoyable for them, and that it's probably a good idea to have a conversation with people, and
be safe about it.
Right. And you can't pretend your way into these situations.
Yeah.
And knowledge is good. Like, so the jokes are, they're not jokes. They're mostly just shocking things people say or do. The non-consensual webcamming of the foreign exchange student, that's bad.
Yeah.
We're going to say that's bad. Like that's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah. That's all bad. Shannon Elizabeth is really hot. Like, I love Boo Boo Kitty Fuck. That's all I'm saying.
That scene, it's bad. It's a pure fantasy moment. It reminds me of in Love Actually when the British man, which Shannon Elizabeth pops up again.
Right.
When he goes to Wisconsin, and
that scene is so funny.
It's so funny. It's so table.
Oh, that's
cool. That whole thing is so ridiculous and objectionable.
I got a huge name.
I think it would have been great if they had played with the fantasy elements of that instead of making it, because that is honestly the most objectionable part of this movie.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Like, because you said like the fantasy element of it, it's like that's when Trey tells his dad in Boys in the Hood about his first sexual experience and how it's totally ridiculous and like this over the top nonsense thing that he tells this story of. This could have been done if you do this whole thing without the webcam. It's just fine. Like you can do this in 100 different ways that it's just fine. The webcam part of it is just real fucked up.
It's in a world where we now know about like revenge porn.
Right. Yeah.
Where many celebrities have had their intimate photos and videos put out for the whole world to see. Like
Mhm.
it's fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
Um,
I guess that's the one part of this movie I think is like, wow, that's tough, you
yeah,
know? But the rest
yeah.
of it, even though it's super broy at the start and the conceit of the movie and the pact is all fucking dumb, and the fact that like this is not an exaggeration, every conversation is about sex in this movie, all of them.
I thought about how this movie should have created their own version of the Bechdel test because, yes, it's annoying and a problem for how often women are talking about other men in scenes, but like
Right.
it's also disappointing how often you have stories about teenage boys and all they're talking about is sex. Like,
Mm-hmm.
give them more
Yeah.
depth. They think about other things, they have other
Mm-hmm.
things on like to deal with.
Yeah. And that's why I think most of these other movies are better movies than American Pie, because the story isn't only that. I mean, Porky's fuck off, but like, and Weird Science is very much. I mean, they make a woman from a doll using science. It's like a Frankenstein thing, but they make a fuck toy that neither one of them can handle
Yeah.
because they're children. Um, and it has some funny bits in it. Like, I don't hate Weird Science, but its conceit is worse than this conceit. But this conceit isn't great because it's not open enough.
And I want to note too that like as pro woman and pro woman's pleasure as this movie might be, they're
Mm-hmm.
still objectifying women. Like
Of course.
the
Oh,
bar is so low, but I'm going
yeah.
to take the baby steps where we get them.
Yeah. And also like I think it's awesome that this movie broadens the field of who can be considered an attractive sexual person in your
Mhm.
life. Like, it's not just the jocks and the cheerleaders. Like, yes, there's an entire school full of horny people that you could talk to. Teenage kid. It doesn't just have to be. But the fact that like every woman in this movie is like conventionally gorgeous. Like, just like I can't believe that girl in the choir is hot.
The
Oh, except for she's hot. Like,
I I saw a meme and it took a clip from the Slumber Party Women's Conference episode of 90210
uh-huh.
about like
Sure.
this is why women from the 90s have like or had disordered eating and all of that. And I'm like, yeah, because the body type of that time, and of course, as a kid growing up in that era, I didn't realize these were fully grown women playing these
Right.
roles.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they're all like very thin with big boobs. And
Right.
therein was my inadequacy as
Sure.
a prepubescent or as a teen. And like, you know, I don't know where I'm going with that other than like to share a sob story. These are very basic looking men, and yet the women all have to be. I mean, again, they're not. I'm going to go into this. They're not super made up. They're made up more than the men. Like, they definitely
Mhm.
have to be looking better. Their hair has to be nice and put together. They have to have some makeup. They have to have that ideal 90s body type. And then
Mm-hmm.
we get to prom.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice the clothing at prom?
I did not.
Okay. I've started noticing this in rewatching a lot of teen shows. The costume budget for prom is sad.
Okay.
I remember thinking, I need to have a big, elegant dress for prom, but we can't spend a ton of money, obviously. Like, that's stupid. And I'm wondering now where I got that idea because none of the dresses, I think She's All That maybe has one of the best prom outfit scenes. I'm just throwing that out there right now because I haven't like gone through the
Right.
entire catalog of my brain. But the prom dresses on Dawson's Creek are abysmal. They're sad. I'm not going to be nice or sugarcoat my feelings about prom outfits.
Yeah.
this is supposed to be a big night, and yet this is the one time we're making men dress up more than the women.
Right.
Because I guarantee you the men spent 3 times as much on, maybe not 3 times, they spent double the amount on their tux that they rented. And all these women look like they went to a department store.
Right. That's
and
funny.
It's like, just even it out, you know?
Right.
Like, let the guys be in a button down, you know, I don't want to say khakis because, whoa. But if you like khakis, fine. It's just not for me. Not my kink.
Leslie just out there khaki shaming people.
I work for Target. That's the last time I ever want to wear khakis. But this is the kind of shit that bothers me sometimes in teen movies. Like, it's supposed to be about a fantasy. If you want to appeal to the women, not everyone, but a lot of us, like, the clothing is going to be exciting. And yet, for prom, the men were spiffed up way more than the women. And I thought, all I'm getting are headbands? All I'm getting is, like, lip gloss now? What?
Right.
What?
It's because their default setting is hot.
And I guess...
You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. I'm not even... Some of this anger is just, I'm mad at younger me for thinking every dance I went to, I had to have the perfect dress, my hair done. I'm just... If I had watched these movies more closely, I could have relaxed.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure if you're able to, like, get that out of watching this movie when you're 12. You know? Like, that's probably a more grown up.
15 or 16, but yeah, like
I'm saying. All right, so we are 57 minutes into this podcast, and we have not gone to Adventures in Intimacy. And I figured we would talk for an hour and a half just about the intimacy in this movie. So I think kids buckle in. I feel like I feel like we might go long this week.
Absolutely.
Which shocks the shit out of me, by the way, because it's American Pie. But go ahead.
So obviously there's a lot of intimacy in this. Shocker. I have to say, wasn't that bad. We get, like, some of the comedic intimacy again, you know, Stifler badly kissing that poor girl before he drinks the...
cum beer?
I didn't want to say it. Oh,
yeah, it's rough. No, it's really rough.
God,
it's a tough scene to watch.
Yep. But
also wait a minute. I feel like we might have to talk about cum beer for a second. Because I think his reaction to it is outsized.
Like, you think he wouldn't have tasted it?
No, I think swallowing cum doesn't make you vomit for 6 hours.
Oh, if you're a homophobic man, probably. That's the thing. It was a very homophobic thing.
It is, because the reality of that is lots of people on this planet swallow cum. Lots of people do that. They wouldn't all do that if every time they did it, they retched for 40 minutes into a toilet at a party.
Yeah.
So it's gross because it's gross. Like, because you just don't want to accidentally drink someone else's jism in a beer. You just don't.
No.
Also, that beer was that was a Natty Light, maybe. That was good. That was going to be a beer that tasted shitty no matter what you did with it. So you could have done that with dumping some other guy's load in there, and I probably still would have thought it was gross, and maybe I would have puked. Neither here nor there.
Also, like, but says so much that a guy, because what is the first thing I was taught about drinking alcohol underage was that, like, listen, if you're gonna have anything, make sure it's something that's in a bottle and that you're the one to open it.
Yep.
Like, yeah, make sure it's something that you keep your eyes on and that you know hasn't been messed with. Like, the fact that he just grabs a beer that has been sitting, I'm like, it must be so good fucking nice to be a guy.
You know, when we went to the Rolling Stones concert, I told Liam exactly that, because Laura went to the bathroom and I'm like, hey, Liam, make sure you keep an eye on Mom's cup, because she was sitting closer to like on the other side of him. And I was like, and here's why that's a thing you need to do when you're out in public, when you're with friends.
Yeah.
Like if you're with especially girls and they go and they leave their drink, maybe just put your hand over the top of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe put a coaster on it, keep an eye on it, make sure no one does anything fucked up. Amazing. And this is something I'm having to tell a 13-year-old because like it's not enough just not to do that to people. It like maybe help it not happen. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, come beer.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, again, I never really know where to go with this because I could either sound preachy or sound like I'm not knowledgeable enough. So again, patience with me, people.
Use the words. Use the words that are the right words, and everyone will figure it out.
I think something, yeah. I think the way this movie is revolutionary is something people forget about, which is Tara Reid being eaten out. A woman is being eaten out in this movie, and not just any old fumbling, trying for the first time. He has a book. He wants to do this right. Like, revolutionary in so many ways. And it's also handled kind of funny because, again, the dad coming up right as that moment is funny.
That's a dad who like is paying attention and is not Eugene Levy walking in to every possible awkward situation.
Yeah. So I think that's a very revolutionary thing. It's still, for a teen drama especially, what?
You know who that dad was? That dad was Jim Walsh when Brandon and Cheryl were doing it.
Oh my God.
When Cindy was like, you should go talk to Brandon. He's like, no. I don't want to walk in on that. Yeah, I'm going to walk in on that. I don't get it. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. There's a shot in that moment, and it focused. I mean, you see from his perspective, like him ducking up between her legs and everything, like making sure how she's doing and everything. But the way they shot it, like of showing how she's enjoying it, I think is pivotal. Because again, they're trying to show that like this shit matters. It should matter to you. Like, yes, we're still treating them like objects, but don't you want your objects to have a good time?
But she's fully clothed.
Yes! Fully clothed. And like, yeah, you see the outline of her torso, but still covered. She's not doing cheesy stuff where she's touching herself, you know, like she's probably making some cheesy sounds that they said like sound like the women in porn.
Sure.
Unfortunate. We encourage people now to make natural sounds, or we should be encouraged to make natural. Hey, there is a scene in the show Younger where a guy makes a sound like a goose when he finishes. And it's super weird, but
I love it.
You know what?
Moo be moo.
Mrs. Robinson.
Okay.
You said moo, I said cuckoo, choo.
Yep. I said moo be moo. That's all.
Oh, moo. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought the chemistry was really good between the choir couple. Oh, their stuff is just so sweet. It's so beautiful because, like, I thought they did it, but then he hints at maybe they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't.
And I love that. I love that they just wanted to be intimate without going all the way, which is a thing. And I wish more stories would cover that that step-by-step process, or like, hey, you can go this far and still be intimate. Like, their shit is so sweet. They're in blankets. Like the next morning when they're sitting on the dock together, cuddling, sharing a blanket, like, I didn't think my heart could soar in this movie, but it did in that moment. It was very sweet. It also felt like it was nice that Mina Suvari didn't have to bear all again for another film.
Yep.
So snaps for her. Just getting some. I don't know how much power these women felt that they had in this movie, but
I guess it would be very, very little.
I would guess that as well. but I'm at least glad that she maybe got to feel a little less objectified in this movie. Um, I, on a less sexy note, the father and son hug, I think they were making fun of how dudes are,
Oh yeah,
quote unquote, supposed to hug each other.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but they were doing the pat, 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 pat back and forth and doing it for a long time. And it's funny because, yeah, that man hug shit is stupid. You're allowed to not like hugs. That's fine.
Right.
You're allowed to like hugs and be a man. It's okay.
Sure. I'm a hugger.
Ah, I love hugs. I'm allowed to like hugs.
Yep.
Those are the main things I noted in the intimacy in this. Again, I was kind of impressed. Obviously, you get some boobs thrown out there for like, again, we can talk more about that scene because it is so ridiculously fantastical. I would say the one redeeming point of it is that you get a woman who, like, she looks like she's choosing to do this. The character is choosing to do this. She wants to just sit in the nude and enjoy herself on a crush's bed. It's
right.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's totally
it's pure fantasy until the part where he comes in his pants twice.
It's pure male gaze.
Yeah.
You know?
With the rug pulled out from under it.
Yeah.
You know,
as it should be.
It's that gives it a slightly redeeming quality is that like it is very obviously a stupid porn setup that is all from the fantasy point of view of the boy until the reality hits and then he's the butt of the joke.
And maybe it's making fun of porn.
I mean, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
But again, it's really hard to overlook the badness of it. You know, when he's running to her, I couldn't help it. My brain went to like, that's exactly what I would tell an actor with a penis. Like, oh, if you get aroused in your scene, like, well, go run, go do push-ups. Right. You gotta move the blood.
Right. Yeah. Shift it around.
Shift it around. So yeah, intimacy in this movie is very interesting. Hope everyone on set had more agency than we think they did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they had a whole lot of input in like what was happening with their characters or the way that was portrayed. I feel like they all got as naked as they wanted to, you know, which was just Shannon Elizabeth got naked because that scene called for it because of what it was. But yeah, all the other scenes, even though they were just talking about it, they weren't showing a whole lot of anything.
No, and it fits with Tara Reid's character that she wouldn't have been more undressed because she's the one not necessarily like she wants to do more, but at the same time she is under the impression that you have to be in love to do it.
Right. And it has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect.
Yeah, it won't. Yeah. Or maybe it will. I don't know.
Right. Doesn't have to be.
First time isn't a monolith.
Right. I mean, could be. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I don't know where else to go with that. I don't know where else to go from there. Oh, I thought it was hilarious for the connection to 90210 that Allison Hannigan and Jason Biggs' characters go do it in the brothers' room. I was like, oh hey, it's like
birthday party.
Yeah.
That's funny. Any port in a storm is basically where you're at there.
You know, and I don't know if this is one last thing I'll talk about here, but I liked the diverse nature of the intimacy, and when it didn't all follow the same formula. You know,
like some of them were blonde, some of them were redheads.
Nope, not what I mean at all. No, that kind of diversity, no diversity in this film whatsoever. So sad. No, only white people have sex apparently. No, but
black people just don't talk about it all the time. Jesus, I don't know. But in this movie, they talk about it a lot. Anyway, the diversity of the intimacy.
But yeah, it's not all the same type of kiss. They're
Mhm.
not, a lesser than movie would have had them all having sex in
Right.
a very basic fashion.
Mhm.
Missionary. Um, no,
Regular.
no disrespect to that,
Right. Get your rocks off, kids.
it's there for a reason.
That's right.
Now I'm thinking about like, why is it called that? But that is not a question for this podcast.
It's not a question I have an answer to.
I can't let my mom. Actually, no, my mom's heard weirder stuff from me. Anyway,
She watched this movie with you. Come on.
that's true. Watch this movie with me, and is yelling at the phone again on why I'm sharing that with the world. But here we are.
There we
Yeah,
are.
I
Um,
I don't know. What questions do you have about the intimacy or my thoughts on it?
I don't know. Now that like we've talked about it a bit, I realize how little there is.
That's
Because
the thing.
most of it is talking.
Uh-huh.
Most of it's talking about it. Like they don't like the Tara Reid in the book scene. There's some contact, but not much really. Like it's like most of the contact is him touching her dress. Like that's some of the only physical contact you see there, and uh the Shannon Elizabeth big scene. They're also not. There's very little contact there. There's her by herself contacting herself,
Which
and then there's him over here dancing like a silly boy, and that I don't. They very only at the end kind of actually touch each other.
But with those things in mind, you would still definitely need one on set because, like,
Oh, for sure.
in something where like someone needs to be touching themselves. Okay, well, like they need. This is gonna sound weird, but go with me. You need like instruction in terms of what this character is doing. Is this something they normally do? Is this their first time doing it? Like how and also you need to think about where the camera's going to be shooting from, and those things. What sort of sounds does this person make?
Right.
Anything with or without people that involves, either sexual intimacy or something like of an intimate nature, you need an IC. It's that simple. We've talked about with Home Alone, like the familial relations. Like you're creating a story, you're building on the story. We completely forgot about the pie fucking scene. Like, I mean,
right. How do you feel? How do you think they coached that pie up? Do you think they talked to that pie about how it was about to get violated?
How would you like to be seen in this?
Torn up.
Would you like to be steaming? Do you want to be fresh out of the oven? Or let's talk. See, I love thinking of this kind of shit. What do you think? What do you think, pie? Yeah. How long have you been out of the oven? Do you want to be a la mode?
Right. Oh, good question.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I like it.
And there are apparently, I think, different versions of that pie fucking scene. But yeah,
I think that initially I saw a thing where this got an NC-17, and part of the way they got it from an NC-17 to an R is they removed a few thrusts from the pie fucking. I think he like thrusted 4 times or something in the NC-17 version, and they took a couple out.
That's hysterical. The fact that it comes down to the number of thrusts.
Yeah, the lines they draw.
So stupid.
Yeah, it's real dumb.
So stupid. But yeah, you would need to talk to an actor about like, hey, are you comfortable with this? Like, do you have an allergy to certain ingredients or things that could? Because it could have been a real pie. It also could have been something synthetic. Like,
right.
These are the little things you need to know, people.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the dick involved.
Facts. There's the ratings thing just reminded me of in South Park the movie. There's a joke. There's a rim job joke,
Oh,
where one of the characters gives the definition of what it is. And they put that in the movie because they wanted to give the censor something to cut. And they let it go. They did never even raise the issue.
so everyone should read I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom because she talks so much about having to fight with standards and practices. And I feel like everyone should be aware of how sexist a lot of this shit is.
Uh-huh.
Because pretty much anything with periods or women's pleasure, a lot of the times gets censored more than men's
Right.
stuff does. So just, my PSA for the episode, other than, as always, hire a fucking intimacy coordinator, is also
Right.
read that book. It's delightful.
Nice. Alrighty. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the music in Needle Drop Forest.
Noted it, yeah.
But it's like it is like every song of 1999 is in this movie.
And then
and then some other stuff you never even heard of, but it feels very much of the moment. Like it was the music choices, like by and large, are not my favorites. Like those songs are not my. Also, I mean, Flagpole Sit I kind of like, and the Bare Naked Lady song I kind of like.
Yeah.
But it very much fixes it in a moment in time.
Yep.
That plus the way the dudes are dressed and their haircuts. Like,
the women's clothing is very end of the 90s, early aughts. Yeah. Again, the like strappy dress with the little cardigan over it, and then the strappy chunky heels.
Yeah.
I mean, the glittery headband. Hello. I always had to have more than one because the first one would break, and then I had to have a replacement ready.
Right. Yeah, you can't go without.
No.
Yep. It's exactly the same as when you have a baby and you don't want to run out of diapers in the middle of the night. It's exactly the same thing.
Your words, not mine.
Yeah, same thing. It's the same thing. One of the things I had for what else time, it sort of ties into that. And it's a question that I have because I feel like the answer might be yes. But is 1999 the time when dudes looked the douchiest in all of history?
Ooh.
Because the male style in this movie it's dead on. That's what we all dressed like. But it looks like, give me the way that Bender is dressed in The Breakfast Club. Or any preppy in an 80s movie over the way these doofuses look in what we wore in 1999.
Which was baggy everything.
Everything baggy, everything real squared.
Yeah.
Lots of horizontal lines on, and I mean, I owned all this shit. Like, this is how I dressed.
Sure.
It's dumb looking.
It's interesting because I keep thinking about the blatant displays of homophobia in the 90s.
Sure.
When I don't even know if I want to give people from then the word tolerant. Like, I would say queer people were being allowed into the zeitgeist more.
Uh-huh.
Stories were getting told.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I would say, still not being hired to tell their own stories enough.
Right.
But stories were getting out there. But there was always it's like with that, people had to combat it with, that's gay. Or,
right.
Before I even understood what gay was, and again, as we all know, I was very sheltered. I did not understand.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it was a dumb phrase. I thought, what's
right.
wrong with this? And again, and not putting myself on a pedestal, I did not know. And I mean, I would still say that now, like, who cares? That's stupid what you're saying. But yeah, as a child, they would have be like, what's gay? I don't get it. Well, it's when two people of the same sex sleep together. Okay.
Right. Yeah. That's largely how kids react now. Like, I mean, you don't say sleep together to a 6-year-old, but like, it's like you would just say like, oh, it's when like a man loves a man or a woman loves a woman. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and
what's
it's
okay.
funny that I mean, because this was a kid explaining it to me, like,
Mm,
and so yeah, that those were their words. Uh,
right. Right.
but so I feel like with the hyper masculine wardrobe that because for some reason y'all aren't allowed to. This movie made me realize how once again why I don't want anything to do with being a man. I am thankful that I feel like I was born in the right body and that,
Mhm.
for as angry as I am being a woman every single day, I will happily stick with my problems over your problems. Like, I'm allowed to cry. I'm allowed
Right.
to enjoy ridiculous shit. Granted, people are still going to make fun of me for any joy I find, but I'm allowed I am and I'm not allowed to wear what I want, Because, like, I can wear
Right.
what I want, but someone might go, look at what you're wearing. You were asking
Right.
for it. It's like,
Right.
okay, but I'm still allowed to wear colors.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to wear things that fit me.
Right.
Like, I can even I can wear pants for Christ's sake, you know? Men
Hmm.
aren't allowed to wear skirts without being called into question. Like,
Yeah. That's true.
so yeah, I went on a rant.
That's all right.
Thanks.
Yeah. No problem. Uh, I have another what else thing, but do you have a what else thing?
I do, and it kind of ties in with what we were talking about there because I realized granted, sex, love, I would say love is allowed to be a thing more in like female ensemble movies than men, but sex is usually
Mm.
always a part of like a coming of age story. It's almost like a pun in there, you know?
I get it. You
Uh,
said come.
I did. But I feel like teenage
You
girls
said age.
I said of.
I get jokes.
Yeah. But in teenage girl ensemble films where they're allowed to be more about friendship.
Mhm.
Yes, there's going to be love, there might be sex, but at the end of the day, they have each other. They're allowed to have each other. They're allowed to have other shit and be emotional with each other, be sensitive, be
Right. Right.
vulnerable. And teenage boys are not.
Right. Yeah.
And also want to note that like I don't want to leave non-binary or genderqueer people out of the storyline, but unfortunately we don't have a genderqueer ensemble film, you know?
Right. Yeah. We have nothing to compare it to. We don't have a whole list like we do of teenage sex comedies
Yeah, that would
to
be a
compare
great
things to.
thing to eventually
Mhm.
add into the cultural zeitgeist, but we
Yeah.
don't have that right now.
Right.
We barely get one character in these ensemble films, but yeah, I just think it's really sad that girls are allowed to bond
Yeah.
and boys are not, unless it's
It would
over.
be nice.
We're gonna get laid.
Right.
Like,
We've got a pact.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't have a whole lot to add.
let's be
I'm with you.
better. Like, want more,
Yeah, for sure. I think that would have. I don't know. I don't know that I feel like I was deprived of that, even though
That's
it
good.
wasn't in these things. Yeah, like I don't know that I. There's. I mean, there is a certain point in high school where you're like feeling things and not don't really know who to talk to about them or how to talk about them or um, like where to get that support, and that is challenging.
Yeah,
Um, to be like I've got good friends. I don't know if I could tell them this. I don't know how I
yeah,
would tell them this, whatever this is, um, like that I feel insecure or that, I feel sometimes I feel really dumb. Sometimes I feel like I don't get any of the jokes that anyone, so whatever it is.
yeah,
Sometimes I feel like I might be gay. Whatever the thing is that you are feeling that you don't know how to express is tough in high school if you don't even know that you can express it.
yeah.
So it would be nice to have had that. figured it out. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like you figured out how to have conversations with people that you're friends with, and express things to. And but there's I'm sure that it could be a more open conversation sometimes, um,
absolutely.
if we had sort of the tools to have that conversation. So yeah, I don't know. Um, I have an EST, and it was something I texted you about right before that I think maybe we'll find a way to do,
Yeah.
um, in things moving forward. But it, it, because of the nature of this ensemble cast and how many things that we've seen them in,
Hmm.
I'm curious about, is this the defining role for X actor?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So like not like the thing they're best in or whatever, but like the thing when you think of Jason Biggs, do you think pie fucker? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the answer is yes, for him. I think this is his defining role. At present, pie fucker is his defining role, as gloriously sent up in that clip from Jay and Silent Bob that I sent you
Yes.
with the Dawson. Um, what about the guy who plays Oz, Chris Klein?
I don't think I've even seen him in anything else. So yeah,
I
this is it for him.
It is, but I'm going to skip some people like that because I think that's true of him and Kevin. Like I don't remember seeing Kevin in other stuff. I've seen Sean William Scott in other stuff, but I do feel like Stifler is his defining role.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know, people shout Stifler to him all the
Yeah.
time. Like, I fucked your mom. That poor guy.
Right. I know.
People suck. Don't yell things at celebrities.
I know. What about Jennifer Coolidge? I think there was a time when Stifler's mom was her defining role.
Oh, it's White Lotus now. I mean, that or Legally
It might
Blonde.
be.
Like,
I think White Lotus probably, but for me, like the thing that I love her from most is Best in Show.
oh God, I don't even remember her in that.
Oh God, she's so funny. Yeah,
I think she has such an incredible character and presence that she makes all of her roles iconic.
yeah, yeah. I don't think this is it for her, but there was a time when it was, when she
Yeah.
was Stifler's mom. You
Yeah.
know. What about Shannon Elizabeth? Is Nadia her defining role?
I don't know, because when I saw her, I went, "Oh yeah, you're one of the cowgirl chicks from Love Actually." So like
Maybe that's it for you.
that,
You know,
I
for
think
me,
it might be it for me.
I think for me it's Boo Boo Kitty Fuck.
That's even
But
better because at least she
yeah.
had more lines. Hopefully,
She did a lot in that movie. That movie's funny. Allison Hannigan, as someone who has not seen Buffy.
Oh,
is-
see, it's
is
how I
it
made
the-
Red.
Right. See, for me, she's Willow all day long. And not for nothing, but had the first female, like the first lesbian kiss on TV
Wow.
was her on Buffy. And it's a beautiful moment because it's not even about it. It's about, I don't want to spoil it because when we do Buffy later, I want you to see it.
Yes.
So yeah, she's Willow for me. But it's awesome that she has like different things that other people can be like, that's
Yeah.
who she is. This is definitely not Eugene Levy's defining moment.
But it was so. I think I talked about this with Walter because I said obviously he had done Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show. He had done other things, and yet I
And
feel
then
like
SCTV. I mean, yeah.
this is what put him on the map, though. I
It's
feel
what put him,
like
it's what put him on the map to people born in 1989.
me and
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Because he was someone I already knew because he was on SCTV in the early 80s with John Candy and Rick Moranis and Dave
Oh, okay.
Thomas and Martin Short. Like SCTV is hysterically funny and very weird. And if you're like, it was a sketch comedy show that wasn't Saturday Night Live at the same time that Saturday Night Live was happening, and it's got some bonkers stuff in it. It's really funny.
Nice.
But he's from that. And then, he's in movies here and there in the 80s and stuff. But this is, I think, where he really got a rebirth.
Okay.
Even though Guffman, I think, is before this. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think Best in Show is before this. I think Best in Show is after this.
Oh, okay.
But those Chris Guest movies had started to happen.
Yeah.
Which brought him a whole other level, and then Schitt's Creek, and now he has a travel show.
What?
Yeah, he doesn't like to travel, and he's got a travel show. So it's
Oh my God, that's like Ricky Gervais's friend Carl.
Oh, Carl Pilkington, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's so I don't think Jim's dad is his defining role, but I do think for a generation, this is the first time you became aware of him.
Absolutely.
So for a while, there was that's Jim's dad.
Yeah.
Natasha Lyonne, I think definitely not.
No. I wanted more of her in this movie, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I think Orange is the New Black is, to me, at least that's what introduced me to her.
Oh, gotcha.
I do want to watch, I think we can find a way for this show. I would love to watch But I'm a Cheerleader, because I know that's...
I don't think I've seen that one. I watched her in Orange is the New Black and in I can't think of the names of these shows, but the one she did where she kept dying, Poker Face, yes, that's awesome.
Oh,
Russian Doll, that was so good and just trippy enough for my brain. Like, really liked that. She was great in that. So yeah, I don't know. It's not this though. But she's like, this is the movie where she pops up and you go, great, Natasha Lyonne's in this.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're wonderful. I love you.
Yeah. And the last, there's two more that I think the answer is no for. Tara Reid.
See, I don't know her.
She's Bunny Lebowski.
Oh, that's why you said that.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you said that. That's hilarious. Yep. Yeah. And what's funny is that, like, she looks older in The Big Lebowski than she does in American Pie, and it was shot a year before.
Wow.
Totally way she's made up in the character she's playing. But to me, she's Bunny Lebowski.
Nice.
Also, she's in Sharknado.
The thing you're going to make me watch at some point.
I think we almost have to. And Mina Savari, this is definitely not the thing she's most known for. It's the rose petal thing.
Yeah, which...
It's a different movie with the name America in the title. And also super fucking gross.
Yeah.
But this is not her defining character, I don't think. That's
definitely a movie now where, like, I really enjoyed it when I first watched it, and now it is tainted for me. If you still like it, hey, enjoy the art.
Like what you like.
Like what you like. It's it's tainted by too many things for me now.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There are better movies out there.
So what is this the EST of for you?
This was the least violent teen movie I've ever seen.
Really? That's interesting.
I thought of that earlier. Yeah, I was like, wow. Because as I was looking at a list of teen movies, I realized there's a lot of fighting in teen movies. It's funny. The older the teen movie, the more, like, and again, it's probably like pent up sexual repression and all of that. Ugh.
Right.
Like
Rebel Without a Cause and
Without a Cause, The Outsiders, West Side Story, Romeo and Juliet.
I get it.
Like, there's so much more violence.
Yeah. And
yet in this one, I don't think there's any. Maybe like some playful locker room shit.
I can't even remember. Like, it feels like one of the movies where someone would get like elbowed in the balls accidentally, but I don't know if that happened.
I don't think there was even a towel whip. Like,
you know what? There was the Finch taking a shit thing. That's violent in its own way.
Triggered. That's all I'll say.
That was rough. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that kind of joke because it's not funny. I'm sorry. It's so gross. It's not funny. Some of us live in fear of that happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no good. I agree.
My intestines were offended.
I get it. I totally get it. I think this was the bluntest
Yeah.
sex comedy.
Yeah.
And I think this is the longest anyone's ever talked about American Pie.
Oh yeah.
We're
I
like
think
an hour and a
way
half. It's
longer than the
ridiculous.
movie. We've been talking about
We
this long.
did,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But what I do know is that we have once again proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling.
Crazy.
Uh huh. Um, so join us next week, Cheese Meisters. We're gonna watch one that I love with all of my heart. Uh, I don't know if it's my favorite Coen Brothers movie, but it's real close to the top. We're gonna watch Raising Arizona.
I can't wait.
Have you seen it at all? I thought it was one maybe you'd seen once.
I have only seen clips. I haven't.
Um,
Even then, like, it was on my list because for a minute there, I was like really trying to like go through any director's, you know,
yeah,
work.
sure. Uh huh.
And that's hard to do. It's hard to keep up with on top of
Right.
all the other content that is out there now. But I have wanted to see it.
Oh,
I know some
I will warn you that most Coen Brothers movies, for me, take multiple viewings before I get it.
Oh God! And
Before like I really find it funny, or before I fully understand what they were going for. And there's some of their stuff I still don't get what they were going for 100%. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're swinging for something, and it's interesting, but I'm not sure that I know exactly what it is. Raising Arizona, the first time I saw it, I was like 12. I thought it was stupid. I saw it again in college, and I'm like, this is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's really smart, and there's some Road Warrior shit going on in this movie that I didn't realize until like a month ago when I watched The Road Warrior for the first time, how direct, like shot for shot, some of the stuff is in the climactic part of Raising Arizona, but we can talk about that next week. Until then, Cheesemeisters. Cheers.
Cheers.